Hi friends, Shayla here. So today I'm here to wrap up my reading week. So this last week I read a ton of audiobooks and I have been great friends this week. I did a lot of shorter ones. So I was sometimes doing 2 to 3 in a day because they were only 5 to 6 hours long. And a lot of my romance audiobooks I listen at on 2 times speed just because there's not a lot of fine details that I need to make sure I don't miss in those. So anyways, this is going to be long. I am going to start with the manga, so if you're only here for the books, there's your timestamp. You're welcome to jump to it. I hope you'll stick around, though. It shouldn't take too long to go through the manga because there's a few that I've done like some dedicated things for, so I will be linking those, obviously. But I've really enjoyed all my manga this week, so I hope you'll stick around and listen. So first up, I read 5 books, 5 volume ones for one of my new and notables. So the first one was Blue Period, The Ancient Magus Bride Wizards Blue, We Swore to Meet in the Next Life and That's When Things Got Weird, Sayonara Football, and Cutie and the Beast. I am going to talk about Cutie and the Beast in this video just because I think my romance lovers are going to love this one, but they might not have checked out the other video. So in Cutie and the Beast, we're following a man named Kuga. Kuga is a professional wrestler, and he plays the bad guy, like the one who's breaking all the rules, breaks chairs over people's backs, that kind of, he's that guy. He's the antagonist in their little scripts and things. And Kuga is a cinnamon roll boy at heart. He is a man who owns a bunny. He is just so pure, and I love him so very much. He is my new manga boyfriend. He's 29, and he has this fan that he's been interacting with on Twitter. He says, hey, I hope you'll come to a match. I would love it if you would send me a fan letter with a picture, so I know it's you when I see you. So she does. They kind of start to interact, and before things progress very far at all, she lets him know that she is 18. She is in high school, though. And so there's an 11-year age gap we're playing with here. And to me, 11 years isn't that big, but you're dealing with a high school and a celebrity. So you have to think about how that looks to other people. And it's so well done. The art in this is just so cute. Because look at this opening page. Like, I just love this. It's so cute. So, if you're down for an age gap, this is your thing. Like, give this one a try. It's only the 1 volume right now. I believe we're getting volume 2 later in the year. And then I've got 3 more I want to talk about that I've read this week. And so the first one we're going to talk about is The Demon Prince of Emoji House Volume 16. I did talk about this briefly in my Check Out These Completed Series video, but I want to talk a little bit more about my true feelings about the end. This one wrapped up in a way that I didn't necessarily expect. With a story like this, you kind of expect it to go a certain way, and it kind of put a spin on that, and I really enjoyed that spin. That made me like the series even more. Because it adds this other element to the story that I dig, and if you know me and you read this ending, you will understand. I can't spoil the end for you. We do see a time skip at the end, as we do in a lot of shoujo titles, so that you can kind of see long-term effects of how things wrap up at the end of the story. And I really loved this, and it's definitely a new favorite for me. Not a new all-time favorite, but it's in my highly recommend category. Like I say, with this series, it is a slow burn. Like I said, it took me till volume like 5 or 6 before I'm like, okay, I'm really digging this. So it'll just feel kind of vanilla, blah, kind of rip off of Kami-sama Kiss with really pretty art for the first little while, but I promise stick it out. It definitely takes on its own thing, and it becomes truly beautiful, so I highly recommend. In fact, it's just gonna be in my background now because I love that cover so much. All right, next up, Ancient Magus Bride, Volume 13. Y'all know I love this story. Y'all know I love this series. With so much of my being, it's not even funny. There's a lot of exploration in the bigger world and the connections that there are in this particular volume, and it was really well done. There's stuff going on at the school that we weren't really aware of until now, and oh gosh, this series is so good, guys. Like, I wish more people were reading this. I know some people are like weirded out by like the immortal being age gap scenario, but we're talking about me here. You know I don't care. But anyways, I love this one a whole lot. And it's not even like overly romantic, people. Come on. Now we are on to An Incurable Case of Love, Volume 5. In Volume 5, we have interlopers start to enter the picture. We spend a lot of time in this one focusing on the interloper on Nanase's side. And so for Nana, it's basically a patient that has a hard time connecting with people. He connects with Nana and takes it to an extreme, and so it causes problems. Thankfully, that is mostly wrapped up and resolved in this one volume. The next one is going to be focusing, I'm pretty sure the next volume will focus on the interloper for Tendo. I love this series. The smutty stuff is just pretty casual in this one. We get the actual, like, first go in the previous volume, but now it's just kind of casually there and happening and talked about a little bit. So this is definitely adult. We love to see it. We love grown adults in healthy relationships. But yes. Anyways, definitely worth reading this series if you're not. Okay, friends, that is it for the manga this week. Let's go ahead and talk books. Okay, guys, the amount I read is insane. This is not normal. I don't ever expect people to read as much as I do, so do not compare yourself to me. I am not a normal human being. I don't work full time. I listen to a lot of audiobooks. Like, this is not a normal week. So let's start with the digital reads. So let's start with ebooks and audiobooks, and then from there we'll get into the 4 physical books. It's mostly been an e-reading week, so let's go with that. All right, so let's go with the audiobooks first. I did have a couple of ebooks, but let's go with audio first. So first up we have Midnight Lily. This is Holden and Lily's story. In this one, it's kind of a manic pixie kind of story, but they're trying to wrap it up in a package of mental health. And I really liked the discussions they were having about mental health for a really long time. And then it got to the end and I was a little bit sad. But anyways, the relationship developing between Holden and Lily is really interesting. It takes on its own dreamlike quality almost. And by the time you get to the end, that makes more sense. But anyways, we have Holden who's kind of falling apart in life. His best friend has died and he's not dealing well. He's kind of having a mental breakdown over all of it. Anyways, so he's basically been drinking, smoking. His friends are like, okay, dude, you got to detox. We're going to take you up here to this lodge and let you kind of clean it out. I'll be back in a month to get you. And after a couple days, he starts to see this woman in a white dress in the woods. And so he starts to go chase her and they start to interact. He doesn't know if she's real, all those kinds of things. It's really interesting. It's an exploration for sure. This one's not my favorite Mia Sheridan, sadly. I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I feel like the ending really took away from the beauty of the story and the message that Mia Sheridan, I think, wanted to say, or at least that I was interpreting from it. So this one's not my favorite, but you're welcome to check it out if it sounds interesting to you. All right, next we have Blaze of Memory. This is book 7? Book 8? Anyways, it's book 7 or 8 in the Side Changeling series. I want to say it's book 7. My gut says book 7. Yeah, it's book 7. And in this one, we're following Dev, and Dev is the leader of a group called Shine that we've become familiar with throughout the series. And they find this woman on his doorstep. It's an amnesia kind of story. She doesn't even remember who she is. There's a reason for that. Asai has basically come and wiped her mind. And that's because she's Katerina, or Katya as she goes by through most of the story. And she was working with one of our previous characters in a previous book for one of the Psi Council in a scientific capacity, we'll put it that way. And so in this one, you're dealing with somebody who basically was mind raped in a way. And so that can be kind of triggering the way things slowly develop, because they're both fighting it because she knows she has to get away. And he's like, I can't trust her. I don't know why she was dumped on my doorstep. And so I feel like it takes them a little longer than I would have hoped to actually like get together, but it makes sense for the kind of story that it was. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars, ended up enjoying it. I really like the resolution on this one in particular. The resolution on this one, it didn't, neither of them are changeling, so there wasn't a mating bond to fix the problem. But the way that it all came together was really interesting to me. And it wasn't an immediate resolution either. There were other things at play. And I loved that. I liked how this one wrapped up. That's what I ended up giving it 4 stars. Otherwise, it probably would have been 3.5. And then I read, in that same series, I read the little Christmas novella that's like 20 minutes long on audio. It's called Christmas in the Kitchen. And it's just a look at like Christmas preparation one day, and it's just conversations and people coming to get cookies and stuff. It's just the group. It's fun. Not anything to write home about, but it was fun for sure. All right. Next we have From Lukov with Love. I was in the middle of binging another series that I'll talk about in a minute, and I decided to take a break, and I threw in From Lukov with Love, which is like a 15-hour audiobook or whatever. But anyways, so in From Lukov with Love, we have Jasmine. Jasmine is kind of a scrappy gal. She's always fought hard for what she wanted. She started figure skating much later than most people do who want to go pro. And she does end up going pro. It doesn't go well for her. She's actually thinking about retiring and just teaching when she is approached by her childhood best friend's older brother, Ivan, who is like the king of pair skating. And he wants to partner up with Jasmine for a year. So he gets her to commit to do it for a year. He says at the end, we'll set you up with another partner, all that kind of stuff. Jasmine has some other things kind of going on within the story. Like she has people who send her really crappy things online and stuff. And it's definitely an enemies to lovers kind of feel. As with all Mariana Zapatas, this is a slow burn. So if you want them to get together and start doing it early, that's not what you're going to get. But I really like the dynamic between Ivan and Jasmine. It feels like the relationship does really kind of organically grow on Jasmine's side. Ivan has been pining for her for a long time, we find out by the end. But it's not done in like an obnoxious way. He knows that she doesn't see him that way. She's only focused on the sport. She's not really ever dated much. And so he just needs her to not hate him to start. And things kind of go from there. It's really sweet. It's really cute. I love this. I definitely want to own a physical copy now. And yes, we love From Lukov with Love. So let's get into the series that I binged. So I read 5 of the books in the Reckless Bastards Motorcycle Club series by KB Winters. So the first one is Deliciously Damaged. This is Mandy and Savior's book. So Mandy is the younger sister of one of the Reckless Bastards, Ammo. And Ammo passed away on a military tour. So Mandy and Savior see each other at the gravesite because she didn't invite any of the Reckless Bastards. Savior just found out and he showed up. And he doesn't recognize her right off and they hook up. Then he finds out who she really is. He's pissed because she didn't say anything. And she's like, forget you. I don't need you. And she ends up moving to Vegas because she was living at New York in the beginning of the story. She ends up moving to Vegas to work with a particular chef in a hotel. And she's a confectioner and she's really good at what she does. You know, dude feels jealous. And then wrapped up in all of it, there is another motorcycle club coming after Mandy. And so Savior's groveling, trying to get her to forgive him for being stupid and all these kinds of things. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Ended up giving it 3.5 stars. And all of KB Winter's books are super smutty. So if you're looking for a good smutty time, these typically have it. But the stories that they're trying to tell wrapped up in them are really good as well. So on to the next one, which is Wonderfully Wrecked. This is Rocky and Lasso's story. So this is a surprise baby story, but they tell you that from the beginning. So it's one of those one night stand baby kind of things. So Lasso's been a guy who isn't committed to anyone. Like, he's scared of commitment. He's not the type. He loves his life. He's not ready to settle down, get married, anything like that. So when Rocky shows up on his doorstep, he remembers her. It was the best night of his life, he says. And she's like, so I'm in trouble, but you need to know that I'm pregnant with your baby first. And so he doesn't know if he can trust her, because she's not really showing yet. She's 2 months along, so nothing's really showing yet. And then you have the fact that she's running from a guy in another club who does illegal things. This is a really bad club. This is the one that when most people think motorcycle club, that's the kind of club it is. The drugs, the booze, the women, all the bad stuff, all the illegal stuff is going on in this other club. So she doesn't know if she can trust him or his club because of her experience with that other club. He doesn't know if he can trust her or if she just wants protection. Anyways, and so it causes like a rift in the motorcycle club as well, because this is the fourth woman who's shown up and caused problems for the club. So everybody's just like, oh my gosh, what is this? Are we bad women attracting? What are we doing here? Anyways, so it's a really interesting dynamic, especially for the overarching story of the series. And I ended up giving this one, again, 3.5 stars. Next, we have Heavenly Hacked. This is Vivi and Jag's story. So Jag is a hacker, and he had an online hacker friend named Vivi, and they were really connected. Through circumstances, they kind of stopped talking. They both felt abandoned by the other, and she's in a bit of a pickle, and so she reaches out to Jag. She shows up. She's got blue hair. She needs help with a certain situation. She thinks Jag can help, and things kind of go from there. So she's constantly ready to run away from him, and he's like, no, you stay. And it's really cute. I really like them. Highly enjoyed their story. I gave this one 4 stars. I feel like the ending of this one is one of the better ones for me, because I felt like because of what was going on, we see real consequences at the end, and I really appreciated that. Then we have Creatively Crushed. This is Cross and Moon's story. So we've known Cross and Moon from the beginning. Moon is a single mom. She runs an art studio, but she has a group of the Reckless Bastards' wives in her studio doing a class one night, and someone comes and shoots up her studio and shoots, what's her name? The female lead of the first book in her studio. And so there's blood everywhere, and she's very much into energies and auras. And so her shop now feels toxic to her, and it's so sad. But she has a sweet little boy with asthma, and it's not just asthma, it's more severe than that. And so they're looking into various treatments to try to help him. And then you have Cross, who lost his wife and child due to the club, and he felt like he couldn't protect her. And now he has all this happening to Moon, but he's starting to have feelings for Moon because he's actually spending time with her now. And the way they come together is really interesting to me. Again, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I do like the single parent aspect to this because the child is present but not. And so I really enjoyed that. And then last but not least, for the audiobooks, we have Holiday Havoc, which is kind of a roundup of everyone because we get everyone's perspective, all of our guys' perspective throughout the course of the story. But we're primarily following the romance of a man named Stitch, he's been like, I forget what they call it, but he's basically been in training to be accepted by the guys. And a woman named Marisol, who got mixed up with a leader of a drug cartel, but she didn't know that when she met him. And she also didn't know that he was married. She tried to get out multiple times. He won't let her go. And there is a point where they're kidnapped and things. So it's interesting. I did enjoy it. And I ended up giving that one 4 stars because I feel like it wraps up the series really, really well. by telling it from everybody's perspective. So we get a little glimpse of everybody through the process, but we get Stitch's perspective more often, obviously. All right, that is it for the audiobooks. Let's move on to the ebooks. Looks like I've got 4 ebooks here. So we have The Lost Love Song, and in this one we have a pianist named Diana. She's in a long-time relationship with a man named Ari. She's Australian, and Ari has proposed. They're going to get married soon. They've been engaged for a long time, and Diana's finally ready to be like, okay, let's do this thing. Let's get married. And she writes him this beautiful love song while she's gone on a part of her tour. When she's flying back, she ends up on a ghost flight and everybody's dead. And so she died in this tragic accident and had left the music that she'd written for Ari just on the top of the piano. And a man picks it up. So it's about the person who receives this manuscript and Ari. And Ari years later, Ari hears the music and he's immediately drawn to it. And from there he goes and he has a connection with a woman named Evie. And Evie's the one who ends up with the manuscript, at least for a period of time. And the song continues to connect them as they have a relationship together and when they don't have a relationship together. And it's this beautiful journey of dealing with grief and loss and moving on. And it's really well done. Solid 4. Ended up really enjoying this. And I would recommend. All right, and then I've got 3 books in the Ice Planet Barbarian series. I tend to read these like 2 to 3 at a time. That's just what I do. So the first one we have here is Barbarian Mine. This is the story between Harlow and Rausch, is how I want to say his name. Anyways, Harlow ended up kidnapped in our previous book by Rausch because he resonated with her. And so it's very much a survival thing. And he has been taught his whole life by his father that the clan, the tribe, they're bad. And so he's been living on the outskirts basically as a caveman. So this one is even more regressed than our other barbarians. And it's about how he wants to protect her. And he ends up like taking her to live in a beachside cave. And the way that things develop for them is actually really, really sweet. And she had a tumor and was going to die before she got her little Cutie, her little resonating thingy in her body. With that, we found out that it was basically curing her cancer, or at least suppressing it, so that she wasn't going to die anymore. So she was ready to live her life, and she does get pregnant because they give in to the resonance, and it's about how her body starts to shut down, and so they have to go back to the tribe and to get her the help she needs and stuff. I really liked this one. Gave it 4 stars. Then we have Ice Planet Holiday. This one we're primarily following Claire, who had been hooking up with a guy named Beck. They never resonated, but Beck kind of has become an abusive a-hole over the whole thing, and so she wants out. And so when they're spending some time at the main set of caves, because there's 2 sets of caves at this point, so they're spending some time at the main sets of caves, and so she refused to sleep in Beck's furs and sleeps with the single ladies and ends up spending a lot of time with Aravan to make sure that Beck knows that she's really, like, done. And they end up resonating, and it's really cute. And we also get to see Georgie's delivery process and stuff. And so if you're connected to Georgie from book 1, this one will definitely give you a glimpse of that. And then last but not least for the ebooks, we have Barbarians Prize. Now, in this one, we're following Tiffany, and the bachelors have been chasing Tiffany hard. There's been one guy who's more just been her friend. His name's Saluk. And Saluk has known for a long time that she's his. Like, he's just always kind of felt that intrinsically for Tiffany, but not for any of the other women, just Tiffany. And so he just tries to be friends with her and get to know her. And so Josie, who's in the next book, has kind of given the other bachelors, we can say, a challenge for to take Tiffany to the place where they beam the alien language into their brain. And it's really, you know, I think the challenges were fair, you know. She was trying to keep them distracted, but they all feel betrayed by Saluk because Saluk and Tiffany spend a lot of alone time together. The reason for that is Tiffany was one of the girls on the original alien ship who was a victim, we'll say. So this can be triggering. There is flashbacks and things, so be prepared for that going in. And through the process, she wants to take control of how she feels about intimacy again. So she asks Saluk to help her get reacquainted with male touch and things. And so they get lots of cuddle time together, and he just talks to her and gets to know her as a human. And it's cute. I really liked this one. I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's been one of my favorite in the Ice Planet Barbarian series, if I'm honest. I feel like this just had so much going for it. It was great. And I really liked Saluk a lot. And when they resonate, it's really, really sweet. So I had a good time with this one. So that is it for all of the digital things. Let's go on to the few physical that I read. So first up, we have Reborn Yesterday by Tessa Bailey. This is a vampire story. And in this one, we're following a woman named Ginny. Ginny is a mortician. So she owns a funeral home. She's getting ready to embalm this body, and this body wakes up, obviously. And it was a joke. His buddies had put him in the morgue because he's a vampire. And his name is Jonas. Jonas has a very high title in the vampire world, and he kind of trains the newly turned vampires and teaches them the rules and everything. But he feels very drawn to Ginny, and there's a reason for that. And yes, it's a very timeless love story, and the way that everything came together in this was unexpected. I ended up giving this 4 stars. It's not a perfect book, but Tessa Bailey is Tessa Bailey. Jonas is definitely alpha, so if you're expecting anything but an alpha, I don't think Tessa Bailey does anything but alphas, and I'm okay with that. I don't mind an alpha. Like, I like that thing. I like that dynamic. And so the will they, won't they went on a little long for me, and Ginny can be a little bit hard to love. She's on the quirky heroine side of things, and I know I've had some friends who just couldn't handle Ginny, and they ended up giving up on the book. So I ended up really enjoying it though. I think if you like Tessa Bailey, you'll like this one. Then we have another vampire book, and that is Unchained by Helen Hart. I ended up giving this one 3.5 stars. This is the first part in the Bond Blood saga. And so it's technically 3 short books in the one bind-up. And in this one, we're following Dante Gabriel, and Dante has been held in captivity for 10 years. And so he breaks out, he's ravenously vampire hungry, ends up at a hospital, and heads towards the blood bank. And then we've got Erin, who's an ER nurse, headed to the blood bank to get some blood, comes across Dante. She doesn't turn Dante in, but they immediately have a connection from there, and obviously it's their romance. And the way that all plays out is really interesting. The lore in this one was a little unique for a vampire story for me. I do think I'll continue on with the series. It's definitely on the darker side of things. So if you don't like dark vampire, this isn't going to be your thing. Go read the other one. But if you like dark vampire, I think it's worth a try. All right, next up. I had gotten this one in my revealed book box, and then Jess from over at Peace Love Books read it for a vlog, and the way she talked about it, I had to pick it up immediately, and that was Truth or Dare by Danielle Allen. In this one, we are following a friend group who's headed to a destination wedding of the couple that's been together the longest. But they have this tradition of playing Truth or Dare in their friend group. So they all show up. Kingston was kind of like the nerd of the group, kind of lanky. And Simone, you know, she didn't have a butt, and so she got teased for it in their friend group. And anyway, so we start off seeing them in college playing a game of Truth or Dare, where Simone, our female lead, gets together with one of the guys in the group named Omar. That doesn't last. That lasts like a couple of years, and then they break up. But this is like 10 years later from that when they're doing this wedding. And Kingston has filled out. He's looking good. I mean, look at him on the cover. Kingston's looking good. And Simone has filled out as well. She's looking good. And they get to the yacht. But sparks start to fly with these two kind of as soon as they see each other again. And then when they get on the yacht, they decide to play Truth or Dare. And things start to happen between Kingston and Simone. But it's kind of forbidden because the bride has in her mind that Kingston is meant for her sister who's just gone through a divorce. But Kingston wants Simone, Simone wants Kingston, and so they're trying to be good, they're trying to keep it a secret, but obviously that's not working very well. But anyways, I really loved how this played out. It's only like 150 pages long, it's not long at all, but man, it was a good time. I really enjoyed it, and I love this cover a whole lot. Definitely check that one out. I think it may even be on KU, I'm not 100% sure. I'll leave a link down below like I usually do though. And then last but not least for this week was my buddy read with Lindsay, and that was All the Stars and Teeth by Adeline Grace. This is a book that obviously we've had for a while because we got this like when it came out with Book of the Month. I hate that we waited so long to read it. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. This one was fantastic. Amora was a really interesting character to follow, and I really liked the dynamic of the world. I'm really looking forward to the sequel with the way this one ended. Anyways, this one has like pirate elements. We've got a mermaid. And this kingdom is basically falling apart because of its magic. And Amora's family can control all the different types of magic, but everyone else in the kingdom is only supposed to control one type of magic. So it's really interesting. I'm really intrigued to see where this one's going to go. So solid 4, definitely recommend giving it a try. We love to see it. Okay, so that was a long one. There was a lot to talk about. I tried to keep them brief but concise, and I didn't even talk about half the manga that I read this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments down below what you've read in the last week that you really enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.